So today we'll do a slightly a Mother's Day pravachan with a little twist, might I add, to see what are the other roles of moms and their interaction with their children. Like I always say, I may not have said it every time on this program, but whenever we do a small pravachan from the scriptures, it is not meant to tell anyone what to do. It is meant for information. Now, you might say, someone may say, well, if it's good, if it's from the scriptures, then it should not only be information. So I agree. If anyone listening thinks that it is good for them, then they can certainly implement that those points or values into their lives, and they'll be able to benefit from them. And if they're not, then just don't leave them with me, perhaps. So this morning we'll also give some information from the scriptures, mainly from Ramayana, to see what is the extended role of mom outside of all the great things we heard and that we all know as children. There's still more that are expected of moms. We'll see what Ayodhya Kand of Ramayana says. माता पिता गुरु स्वामी सिख सिर सिर धरि करहि सुभार लेहु लाभ तिन जन्म कर नतरु जन्म जग जाय बोलो राम 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 श्री रामचंद्र भगवान की जय. So we know this part very well. We want to use this doha to establish one point in our pravachan. Mata Pita Guru Swami Sikha Siri Dhari Karai Subhai. That the children who follow the advice of mother and father, guru, the religious preceptor, the master, religious masters, and they would gain in life, and they would have done that which is proper, both ethically and from a dharmic standpoint. This is what is expected of children. That also means inherent in the fact that the children should be adherent to parents. The fact that we are all human beings, if children are to be adherent, then it also means that parents have to be right, and right every time. Because if the parents are not right every time, or the mom is not right, then there's an argument there that the child should not follow that which is incorrect for him or her, whether it's in their social lives or their spiritual lives. On the other hand, the child cannot just cry foul whenever the child is uncomfortable with something, maybe imposed or advised by mom and dad, that, I don't want to do this, only because it's inconvenient. It's not something they're willing to implement in their lives. And so you have a confrontation, you have a disagreement. The best thing to do at that point in time, have a meeting with the parents and children and come to a conclusion. Bring your values, your family values. And I'm sure family values would be your spiritual values, your scriptural, your religious values, your ethical values. Bring your values to the table, sit and talk about it, and do that which is in the best interest of the family or your value system, right? So because of those values, Bhagavan Sri Ram was also explaining something to Lakshman in this same katha. जासुराज प्रिय जग खारी, जासुराज प्रिय प्रदुखारी, सोन पवसरी नरक दिखारी। राम सिया राम जय जय राम, बोलो राम सिया राम जय जय राम। ओ मन क्रम बचन चरण रत होई, कृपा सिंधु परिहरि सोई। राम सिया राम जय जय राम, बोलो राम सिया राम जय जय राम, बोलो राम सिया राम जय जय राम। So Jasuraj Priya Praja Dukhari, so Nirpu Avasi Narak Adhikari. So growing up with the right values is important. Why? Because at some point in time in life, the children would have to exercise those values that were instilled in them growing up. And so here there's a situation where Bhagavan Sri Ram is telling Lakshman. Why? Because they're going away to the forest. And so Lakshman wanted to come with Bhagavan Sri Ram. And so Bhagavan Ram is trying to dissuade Lakshman. That look, you cannot come because you need to stay here and help Bharat with running the kingdom. Why? Because a king who brings sufferings to his beloved people, surely so Nipru Avasi Naraka Adhikari. Those kings, those leaders deserve a place in hell. Narak. So Bhagavan is giving Lakshman Dharma Niti, right? The rules of Dharma, how to operate a dharmic state. Lakshman is listening because Bhagavan Sri Ram is trying to exercise some level of leadership because of the fact that he's going away to the forest. But when you think about the word leadership, the things that come to mind are, power and perks and title, and all these things come with leadership. But leadership is really a commitment. We may have heard the term from the book, leaders eat last. And immediately we can think of who's the person we know routinely eats last. And it's the mother. She ensures everyone eats first and then she eats last. If you're from the business side, then, in business they tell you, take care of yourself first. A mom takes care of herself last. Because in a mom's case, it's a spiritual responsibility. And a spiritual responsibility comes, with a not just a commitment, but a divine commitment. Why? Because since we're talking about leadership, the mom is also a leader. Look at all the greatest qualities of a leader in any organization, corporation, or any entity, and you'll see that a mom exercises all those qualities and even more, to the point where she'll sacrifice her own life. And leaders are also expected to do that if need be. We can remember, I was looking up an article a few days ago, bumped into this picture. It's online, and it came from the New York Times, I think, New York Times newspaper, covering the story of the shooting in Nairobi in Kenya. I think it was 2013. And we should be able to show the picture. It's a real picture. A reporter happened to have been in the building when the shooting was happening and saw a mother covering her child with her own body. That is when we talk about leadership, that is how a mom leads, even at the expense of her own life. But when we look at it, a mother can lead in so many different ways. But one of the ways that a mother can lead, because whatever the mother does, that's what the child will do, right? So I remember this very beautiful story that has been put together so descriptively by the great Saint Kripaluji Maharaj. He says that a mother can lead in a different way as well. For example, when a child is little, especially in the impressionable ages, years of the child, let's take, for example, the mother wants a little rest. She's tired, or she has other preferences, domestic ones, etc. So she tells the child that, look, the neighbor is expected to come over today. When the neighbor comes, tell the neighbor that mom's not at home, right? This is an example of another way that a mom can impress upon the mind of a child. And so the neighbor comes over. The child remembers exactly what mom said. So the neighbor approaches the child, and the child says, jab पड़ोसी आता है तो उसे बताए कि मम्मी कहती है वो घर पर नहीं है. What a child is saying to the neighbor that, where's your mommy? Oh, mommy said when you come to tell you that mommy is not at home. So what did the mom do? Because mothers are such good leaders, the mom comes out and asks the child, what did you do? That's not what I told you to say. The child didn't understand. The child is very young, 4 or 5 years old. I told you to tell the neighbor I'm not at home, not to tell the neighbor I say that I'm not at home. Essentially, the child has put together now that the mom has told him to tell a lie, right? So if there is any mother that does that, then you don't have to teach that child that again. That has now created an impression upon the mind of the child, and the child will use it whenever he or she has to in life, at his or her will. Now this sounds like a harsh thing, but that is one of the things a parent can do. Why? Because, mothers are known as the first guru. So whatever the first guru teaches you, especially in those impressionable years, then it will stay with you forever. But moms go way beyond that. Mothers don't teach children that, but if anyone by mistake thinking it's just a one-time thing, no, the child will learn it. And so if we look at the sacrifices moms make, for example, in the military, if you ask a soldier, a soldier, we hear these stories all the time. A soldier will put his body in front of a bomb to save the other soldiers, right? Every time. There's so many stories. He'll put his life in danger to save another's. And if you were to ask him, if you were to ask any soldier, why did you do that? The answer is the same across the board with any soldier. The answer is, because they would have done that for me. That's the answer. It's always the answer. Because that's what soldiers do. So because of that, also in the military, they give medals to people who are willing to sacrifice their lives so that others may gain. It's in the military. In business, interestingly, they give bonuses to people who are willing to sacrifice others so that they can gain, or the boss can gain. It's a little harsh, but it's practical. It happens out there. We operate in this zero-sum environment. I'm not trying to implement the win-win environment. Zero-sum is one person loses, one wins. Win-win is that everybody wins. And so the question comes that a mom will not do that. So why is mom, she's not putting her life ahead to save the lives of the children because she's thinking, oh, I would want them to do the same thing for me. That's not in her mind. She just does that naturally. Because the mom has the child's best interest at heart. Because moms have unconditional love for children. However, having said that, if you want to be objective, then there's a flaw. There's a problem in that very love that a mom rules by. Because remember, mom is the first guru, right? So what is mom's job? Gu means Maya. And Ru means liberation. Maya as in darkness. And Ru, liberation as in light. But bear in mind here that mom has she has to deliver on this divine commitment. So there's no selfishness in her mind. By the way, the second half of the Chaupai we were supposed to explain is that, Man krama bachan charana rata hoi kripa sindhu parihiya ki soi. That the Chaupai is saying Lakshman, is saying now to Bhagavan Sri Ram, and Sri Ram asks him to stay. Lakshman says, look, hey Ram, a person who's so devoted to your feet in man, kram, bachan, and in thoughts and words and in action, should that person also be abandoned? Should you leave that person aside? Because, that is, in my mind, that's not fair. And so Bhagavan Sri Ram is listening. So he mentions to Lakshman, he cannot answer. He knows, Bhagavan Sri Ram knows better than anybody else how devoted Lakshman is to his divine feet. And so he says to Lakshman, look Lakshman, here's what you have to do. Manga hubida Matu san jai Avahu begi chalahu ban bhai. He says, Lakshman, mango bida matu san jai. That go and ask mother. Go and ask mom what you should do. If you're allowed, if mom says you can come to me, then come. And let's go to the forest. So Lakshman went. Lakshman described to his mother, who is Sumitra, not Kaushilya or Kaikeyi. There is Ram, Bharat, Lakshman and Shatrughna, right? Bharat, Kaikeyi is Bharat's mother. Kaushilya, Bhagavan Sri Ram. Then there is Lakshman and Shatrughna, Sumitra. So Lakshman asks. And in the mind of Sumitra, Gai sahami sunu bachana kathora Mrigi dekhi dav janu chahora. When Sumitra heard this what Lakshman had to say, that he has prepared himself and he wants to, and he's here to seek her blessing, to go to the forest with Bhagavan Sri Ram for 14 years. Then what happened? Sumitra was stunned. She was stunned according to Ramayana, Mrigi Dekhi. Now when a deer is in the forest and the deer realizes that, she's alone and there's fire that has started in the forest and she can see fire on different sides, she becomes confused. She can't think straight. It's probably one of the reasons why, especially here in Florida, you drive on the road and, deer would jump into the windscreen of cars. Why? Because with the approaching headlight, they stop thinking. They cannot think what to do, so they plunge straight into the approaching light. So this is a scenario that Sumitra is explaining, that she was so confused and so stunned that she became like a deer around fire. And so Sumitra, being a mom, realizing and recognizing her divine commitment, not only a mother's duty, but a divine commitment, and we'll talk about this before we finish explaining the Chaupai, her divine commitment, she's remembering, and she is thinking, how should I respond to what Lakshman is saying? So this is how she responded. Sumitra is addressing Lakshman. राम निवासु तहि दिवस जहु भानु प्रकाशु राज राम 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 सीता राम 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 राज राम 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 सीता राम 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 अस जिय जाने संग बिन जाऊं अस जिय जाने संग बन जाऊं लेहू तात जग जीवन लाहू राम 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 सीता राम 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 सीता राम 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 बोलो राम 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 सीता राम. So Sumitra pauses for a little bit and then she speaks. She says to Lakshman, very quickly she processed the entire situation in her head. This is her son going away with his stepbrother to the forest for 14 years. He has a whole kingdom to enjoy. He has his mother there, but yet he has chosen to go with Ram. And so Sumitra had to dissect the situation in small pieces to ensure that she comes up with the right answer. This is not a political situation. It's not a social situation. Sumitra has seen this as a divine situation. So what did she say? She pauses and she says to Sri Ram, Ram, look, Tahi divasu jaha bhanu prakashu. That place can only be called day, divas, when bhanu prakashu, when the sunlight is out. Not because it's bright, or when the sunlight is out. Sunlight is so beneficial. So when the sunlight is out, that's daytime. In a similar manner, my son, avadataha jaharam nivasu. Only that place is Avadha, Avadapuri, meaning Ayodhya. Only that place is Ayodhya where Ram Nivasu. Nivasu, was, the root verb here, means to live. Nivasu means an abode. An abode means where Bhagwan dwells. So Ram Nivasu, Sumitra is now telling her son, Lakshman, that only that place is Ayodhya where Ram dwells. She's not thinking about herself. She's not thinking about the kingdom or anything. She says, if you want to be in Ayodhya, then you need to be where Bhagwan Ram is. So, bearing this in mind, go and accompany your brother and don't ever think about the duties you have to the kingdom or the duties you have to your mother. Because Sumitra, after thinking about it carefully, she seizes the opportunity, she seizes the moment to uncover the selfless and most rare privilege of the accompaniment of Bhagwan Sri Ram in the midst of all the rubble. She can see a silver lining in the midst of chaos and confusion already created by Bhagwan Sri Ram going away. And so Sumitra says to her son, Rajao beta, you can go with your brother. Her exact words, Lehatat Jagajivan Lahu. Lehatat. Tat, she's addressing her son in a loving manner. Jagajivan Lahu. That go and benefit. There's only one way to benefit of your existence in this world, and that is to be in the company of Bhagwan, the company of God. These are the words of Sumitra that maximize on the rarest of opportunities in this world. Why is Sumitra saying that? Because she's looking out now from a deeper place, not from emotions, but from a deeper place about the benefit of her son. She's doing this for a reason, and we'll address it in just a few minutes before we close. There's a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita that says, Yadaya charati shreshas tadevataro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadunavartate. This is the verse 21 of chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita that says that whatever actions great persons perform, common people will follow. Whatever standards they set, all the world would pursue. Think about it in the life of a child. There's nobody greater. There's no greater role model than a mother or than the parents. So whatever they do, the children will of course do. Bhagavad Gita is saying this. But Sumitra is also thinking about Hanumanji, about the selfless service that Hanumanji performed. Hanuman performed seva for Bhagwan Sri Ram. She knows of Ramayana Katha, even though this part of the Ramayana didn't happen yet, but Ramayana happened so many times before. If you read Ramayana, Valmiki ji wrote Ramayana before it actually happened. Jamond was there for many lives of Bhagwan Sri Ram. And so she thinks of Hanumanji always serving selflessly. She thinks of seva, seva meaning selfless service. If you want to do bhakti, if you want to be devoted, and Sumitra knows if you want to be devoted to God, if you want to have serving lovingly, then you have to do, bhajadatu sevayam. This is the root for when you look at the word bhakti. If you want to do bhakti, bhajadatu sevayam. You have to do seva. Selfless service completes bhakti. It is not just chanting and hearing God's name. A person has to always do Manav Seva and Madhava Seva. One of it will not work. Manav Seva means service to man. Madhava Seva, service to God. For those of you who are listening who knew my father, this is something he said almost every time he speaks. You cannot serve God if you cannot serve humanity. It comes from the scriptures. Sumitra ji realized that, Manushvattam Mukshuttam Mahapurusha Sambhava. It is the rarest of opportunities when a person has a yearning, mumukshutvam, to know God. So, realizing that, Sumitra ji took the back seat. And she ensured that Lakshman is going on that topic. Hinduism has taught us, our scriptures taught us for a very long time about, it's not what you tell the child, it's what you show the child. The actions of the parents is what the child will do. This will form an impression in his mind. There's, there are scientific studies to support what the scripture has been saying for a long time. I think Michigan University has done a study in 2013. I don't remember the dates, but it's in 2013 to show that whatever the Hindu scriptures are saying, that what the parents do, the child would observe, and the child will do the same thing. So the scriptures and science, they both tell us conclusively that don't do one thing. Mom is not allowed, unfortunately, to do one thing and expects the child to do something else. And so Mom, Sumitra, has realizes this purpose, that this is an opportunity for me to go beyond this world, beyond my earthly relationship with this human being who's my son, and help him to do that which is best. What is best in Sumitra's mind? In our relationship, we have something called a rishta. For those of you who know a little bit of Hindi, rishta is a human relation. We heard this word rishtedar or rishta from our songs and what have you. So that's a blood relationship. Rishtedar means a blood relative. What Sumitra is telling Lakshman is to go and establish or continue or capitalize on something that is called sambandhi. Sambandhi means a different type of relationship. We may have heard of, because we have blood relatives, and then we have relations that we have created. Like, for example, your child is married into the house of some others, of course. And so the parents in one home of one child would address the male parent of the other child as samdhi, right? We know that word. And the female would be samdhi, and the female would be samdhan, and the male would be samdhi, right? Now, this is not a blood relationship. We have created this relationship. The sambandhi that Sumitra is saying about is, when we look at it, there's a prefix, and then there's a suffix, and then there's a word in between. There's samdhi, and then there's sambandhi. So the dhatu, the root verb there in that word is called dhatu. Dhatu means root verb, of course. And so this band, sambandhi, the band means nitya bandhan. What is nitya bandhan? Eternal binding. An eternal relationship. Sumitra has thought of what is the eternal relationship that should be prioritized in the life of any human being, not only my son. And she came to the conclusion that the purpose of the human birth was to establish contact with God and attain God's abode. This, she realizes, is the best opportunity for her son. And so she took herself, like every mother, she took herself out of the equation. She thought of infinity, of her son, the soul, existing into infinity, and what will be the best scenario for him. And so Sumitra has decided that she will send her son with Bhagavan Sri Ram. Why? Because she knew Bhagavan Sri Ram is Bhagavan, and to do seva and to be in his company would secure, any mother. As I was growing up, when you go and take the blessings of your parents in the morning or whenever, they say something, most parents, my mom used to say that, they say, Jug Jug Jiye Beta, right? Jug Jug means Janma Janma. Lifetime after lifetime, may you be blessed. The mothers know they don't necessarily have the capacity to do that because you're a mother in this life. But they love the child so much that they want to ensure that even though this will not be my child, I don't know what the relationship will be in the future, but I want this individual, this soul, to be happy. And so they tell you, if they don't say it in words, in their mind, that's what they want. And so there could not have been a better opportunity for the soul, for Lakshman, to go in the company of Bhagavan, Sumitra, the mother, with her motherly instincts, with her knowledge in scriptures and spirituality. She was able to make the right choice. So what we can conclude here is that mother's foremost duty, that's why I said, we'll give a Mother's Day little pravachan with a little twist. The twist is, we know what the duties are of a son or of a daughter. What is the duty? What are the duties of parents? Or what is the highest duty of a mother? And we have learned from Ramayana today that the highest duty of a mother is to ensure the child becomes spiritually inclined. A child who's not hostile to God is the mother's foremost duty when it comes to what is expected of her, what she should provide in the life of her children. So that brings us to the end of our little pravachan today. But if you are listening, then I'm sure by now you have a question, right? And your question is, how is that the most important duty of a mother? Because you can think of so many things. Mothers that are listening to us right now, you go like, my child should surrender to God. How is that the highest duty? And so we'll answer this question, but I also, before we close, want to welcome, all our, my Pandit brothers online with us today. Pandit Nishal Mizir is again with us this morning from Guyana. Dr. Brahm Hardwar, like we said, Dr. G is a Hindu scholar as well. While he's practicing his medicine, we're honored to have you, Dr. G. I think a fatherly figure, Pandit Chandraban Hardwar, he's also a veteran Pandit. And my mamu from California, Pandit Hari Prasad, is also with us. So I'm honored to have all you very learned souls with us so that we can join together in prayers. So before we go into our meditation, let us answer this question. And I'll be as brief as possible. If you have further questions, then you can write to us, call us, to get us. So the highest duty of a mother is to ensure that her child is not hostile to God, or her child is a child who's spiritually inclined. How is that her highest duty? How about who takes care of the child when the child is young? What about sending the child to school, helping him or her out every morning, giving them some money to go to school? If you can afford, you pay their tuition to go to college. There's so many things that come to mind. That how is it attaching the child's mind to God, or helping the child in that process of attaching his or her mind to God, is the highest duty? What happens to all the aforementioned things? Here's the answer. Ayu karma cha vittam cha vidyan dhanameva cha panchaitani siddhyante garbhastasya badehina. This is Hitopadesh. There are 5 things in life that are unchangeable. You cannot change them, regardless of what you do. Many things in life can change. So this is our conclusion, so listen carefully. Many things in life can change. Bear in mind, while I speak about 5 things that cannot be changed, bear in mind that human beings also come with something called free will. With free will, you can shape your destiny. While you're shaping your destiny with the free will that you've come into this world with, you've also come with a package from your Sanchita karma that is now called your Prarabdha karma. We cannot explain those terms now, but another time. Prarabdha karma is the bundle that you've come with, and in that little bundle which is Prarabdha, there are 5 things that are unchangeable. We'll explain them in brief. Ayu. Alright? Ayu means a lifespan. Ayu karma cha vittam cha. Karma means what interest a child would have. Interest meaning, would the child become a doctor, a teacher, an engineer, a blue-collar worker? You want to... Whatever field of profession that child goes into is not something that will be determined by the mother. Mothers may think that, you know what, today my child's a doctor, all thanks to me. I've planted in his mind since he was so young that he should become a medical doctor, he should become an engineer, he should become this, that, or the other. That's just a coincidence. Because whatever the karma of the child, the interest that the child would have, that is what the child will become. This is from the scripture. This is not my opinion. Ayu karma cha vit. Vit means wealth. How much wealth will come to that person easily? And some people, they just hit the lottery, playing for the first time, 1 ticket. Some people play their whole lives, never win anything. Some people have 2, 3 jobs and trying to become rich and they never do. Some people work hard, they become rich. Some people work hard, can never make ends meet. So a decent portion of this is caused by vit, by how much wealth you would amass easily. That doesn't mean you should become fatalistic. There's a thin line here. How much you'll get easily. Work hard and you'll be fine. Vidya, knowledge. How much knowledge comes to a child easily? How many of us have not been in class and this subject is so difficult? We're listening to the professor. We're doing our best. It's exam time and we're barely struggling to get a C. And sometimes we fail. The guy sitting next to you, he's just relaxing and listening to the professor. He doesn't study, doesn't do anything, and he aces the exam. He gets 100. It's an A. Why? Vidya. How much knowledge will come easily is one of the 5 things that is unchangeable. Your brain is like a sponge. The other person, he gets through in life, he gets his degree or whatever he has to get, but he works so much harder. That is Vidya. And the 5th one, Nidhanameva cha. When and how. This might be a little bit insensitive, especially given the situation that we're experiencing right now. But Nidya, Nidhanameva cha means when and how a person will die is one of the 5 unchangeable things in a person's karma. So what does it mean? It means that if your child will become a doctor, your duty as parent or parents is to help the child through this process. It is your duty. You have brought this child into the world. You're not doing him a favor to, try to help him out. Mothers go beyond the call of duty, but, to provide a place for the child to live and some finances for the child to go to school. These things don't necessarily mean or add up to the child will become a person of this particular field. Because if he's to become any of whatever he is to become, he will. Duty of mom and dad is to help him through the process. So I hope that little explanation works. If you need further explanation, then you can contact us. There, the scripture is is replete with examples. Purva janma kritam karma tad daivam miti katyate. That the actions performed in our last life with our free will becomes bhagya, becomes destiny, in this life. That is how those 5 things are unchangeable. All right, so I hope this little pravachan helps to create a differentiation between what a mom's highest duty is and the things that a mom does on a daily basis. A mom will do, that which no one else would ever do for the child. But bear in mind, all you young mothers out there, all you unmarried girls, doesn't mean you probably also have a question in your mind. Okay, so where's Dad's role? What does he do? The truth is, I'll prefer not to explain that, because then I'll fall into a guilty category. But there is a duty for that as well. But the mom's duty, highest duty, is to ensure that the child becomes a devotee of God. The rest is just things that are expected and should be done of a mother, and a mother does it best. So again, I hope that you remember these points, and the young mothers to ensure and remember what their highest duty is, and instill that kind of knowledge in the child unfailingly every day, and it will be a win-win situation for mom and for the child. What do I mean? When the mom does right by the child, there's divine benefits to be had to encouraging and enabling a child to become a devotee of God.